What else? I beat Hades 2. I rolled credits on Hades 2. Yeah, air quotes. Yeah, so I think the way that Hades 2 has done this ending patch stuff, I don't know if you've heard about that. Have you?
Did you bring it up last week, I think?
I brought it up, but I hadn't actually encountered it.
Okay.
And the patch hadn't come out yet. I think the way they've handled the way this patch works is one of the shittiest updates I have ever encountered in my life. It is one of the worst ways, and don't worry guys, there won't be any spoilers. It is one of the worst ways I have ever had to deal with a patch. It has fully reinforced my I'm just gonna wait 6 months for almost every game I can get a hold of. It is the worst. So the long and short of it is that people generally did not like the game's 1.0 ending. I went and I checked out what was different and what was changed, and I'll tell you, yeah, that's a pretty bad ending. That's I would call it poor. I wouldn't call it terrible, but it's pretty shit, right? And then what, a month later, 6 weeks later, they said, hey, big changes coming to the ending. And it was okay. And big changes include a bunch of new dialogue on the path to the ending. The ending's twice as long. There's some actual narrative changes that happen, but there's just more of it as well. And I'm like, oh, that's a much better ending. I don't think it's great, but I think it's much better. However, well, what if I beat 1.0 and saw the old ending? Well, they're going to add an incantation that you can use to just reset the game's story progress just for the main quest. And so you'll basically be starting over, and you have to do your 6 and 8 runs again, right? But it will add all, you'll basically be playing through the new version. So here's much more interesting question. What if I already did everything I need to do before the final important run? Well, Pat, person in this fringe situation, what's going to happen is you're going to see the new upgraded ending and none of the new dialogue that builds up to it. And the ability to rewind the game's state only exists after you beat the game.
Okay, fuck. So the new, I saw this being referred to as a true ending, right?
No, there's two. There's the credits ending, and then there's a true ending afterwards. It's the credits ending that was changed.
Okay, the thing after that is the same.
Yes.
So there's a build up to that stuff that happens through dialogue beforehand.
So I'll stop you, and I'll just because it's complicated.
I understand. Okay.
In the original 1.0 release, the biggest complaint was there's no lead up to this ending. It's very sudden, and it comes out of nowhere. So in addition to changing it for the better, what they also did is went back and put supporting dialogue that would lead the characters to that conclusion.
To it. Okay.
So what I get now, being right at the end, right at the finish line, I get the new ending that still doesn't have any setup to it. So I go, that's really weird. It's like all the characters change their minds at the last second for no fucking reason. And I can't go back to see it until I beat the fucking game. This is not a 1.0 release. I waited a year to play this game at 1.0 on the fucking Nintendo Switch when it is done on a console, fucking finished. And then I'm playing it for a couple weeks, and they're like, by the way, we rewrote the whole ending, but you're stuck. You're actually locked in now.
What percentage would you say is of the new stuff is pre-ending setup versus changes to the actual ending?
I won't be able to tell you that until I go and actually do it again. Supposedly, nearly every character of note gets multiple lines of dialogue that's set up the new ending.
Jeez, that
across 8 runs.
Yeah, I mean the thing with this is, it's almost going back to summer. It's not the same, but the problem I had of overdosing on pre-release versions of the game where
Yeah, so I accidentally did that with the full
Right.
release of the game.
Yeah, the general understanding being like when something is in early access or so, anything can happen. You can't you play at your progress at your own risk or whatever. But if you're
Yeah.
doing it once there is a 1.0 call, then you should not
Like I
feel like
expected
you
a
should not lose
balance
anything.
change or a bug fix here or there.
And that's complex too because you can't just do like a cutscene viewer. You know what I mean? Like it's
Because
tons of dialogue. Yeah, and this game has so much dialogue that like going back to catch it all is also like impractical.
It is like the worst feeling situation I have been in a game's narrative or a patch.
Just do it all over. Just do it all over. Yeah.
And so now I'm gonna reset it and I'm gonna do it all over, and my brain is gonna go, wow, I really wish I had seen this first or been able to go back first instead of getting locked into this weird sequence of events. Like, I think that they locked down the Nintendo Switch 2 release date and then realized they weren't going to hit it, because that first ending, when I went back and watched it, that seems incomplete. That seems like not finished. There is too much dialogue re-recorded and too much new art for me to believe they saw people like complain about it and we're like, oh, let's get everybody back in the studio and fix it up. Like, and now the game's 1.0.
And if this content, which I imagine it sounds like it's pretty good, is worth it.
Supposedly,
that fucking sucks. Yeah. This reminds me of P5 Royale, right? And it's not, of course, the same thing with the release structure, but in terms of like, is it enough to just go check?
There's a new ending to that game.
Is there? Yeah, and I remember at one point I was like, so is it enough to just check out the new stuff? And it's like, no, because
it's integrated.
It's integrated. The campaign itself, right? And SMT5 as well, where at least with SMT5, I will say that the Vengeance mode is like wait, no, not Vengeance. Am I getting that wrong? Anyway.
Yeah, no, Vengeance.
Vengeance, yeah. Is like, like 20 minutes in, it's diverging heavily, right? So that whole thing about like, you're going back for P5, but the integration starts earlier, and I'm like, I don't have it in me to go do it again. I just don't. If it was,
I tried, and I get distracted by something else because there's too much of that game that's the same. I'll go back to it in like 5 years or something like that.
So if the victory lap was like all the same, and then from this point forward it changes, that would be, I'd be okay with that. It would be easier to digest. But nope. The fact that you're all this stuff beforehand, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, then
like
I'm just gonna get punished for being an early adopter, and that'll be that. You know?
I happen to be in the, like, if I had beaten the game myself and be like, wow, that's terrible, and then go, oh, let's see what they changed, that would have been fine. If I had not picked it up until last week, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I got to exist in the nexus point of shit, where now, like, my experience was totally disconnected from itself.
And
fucking stupid.
And again, like, I always, like I've done the pre 1.0 burnout thing. If you specifically waited, that sucks. And you stopped right before, like, the final point is basically,
I had one run to go. I had the final run to go when the patch downloaded on Steam on my computer.
Okay. Does the extra stuff that you're describing that is added into the main story, did they add stuff to the side content at all as well? Because
the way that it works is that, like, basically your runs with Kronos have more and new dialogue, and there are more and new dialogue with side characters about your runs with Kronos.
Okay, all in the context of the main runs, yes. But everything you did outside of that is still
all the personal progression, all that stuff. That's all the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Just the worst. Just the worst.
Yeah.
Like an author changing the ending to a book while it's in your hands. Just god awful.